Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Experience Oldsmar with the Mayor. I'm your mayor of the city of Oldsmar, Dan Saracki, in downtown, beautiful Oldsmar, top of the bay in the old bank building. Today, we have a special guest here in the city of Oldsmar with us with 20 years of public service. My guest today is Pinellas County Commissioner Charlie Justice. Thank you for being here, Charlie, and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate the opportunity.
I'm really excited for having you come out here today. Thank you so much. I've got a bunch of questions for you, and we're going to get started. Are you ready?
Fire away.
I understand you were born right here in Pinellas County. Where did you grow up? Where?
I was born in St. Petersburg, and I grew up in West St. Pete, Tyrone. If you know where Tyrone Square Mall is, that's the most notable landmark on our side of town. Everybody knows where the mall is. It was my playground growing up. I grew up in West St. Pete. All public schools, Tyrone, Azalea, Bogasega High School, all local side on the west side. So great place to grow up.
Well, I moved here in 95, and I remember Tyrone Square Mall was like the place to go. It was so busy, and there was really nothing else around except for that. But so that's where you grew up.
That's where I grew up. Back in the day, there were like three malls. There was Tyrone Square Mall, Pinellas Square Mall, Countryside Square Mall. Those were the three hot spots in Pinellas County for shopping and retail.
Absolutely. All right. So what was it like growing up as a child in that area? Give us some good background.
It was suburban life at its best. You could, you're the true thing of your mom would kick you out of the house in the morning, say be home for dinner, and you'd be on your bicycle in the neighborhood. I grew up with the same kids from elementary all the way through high school. A lot of great friends, a lot of great memories. Not only the retail and those kind of things to grow to playground, but we had beautiful beaches on the west side, going out to St. Pete Beach, going down to Gulfport Beach. It was an incredible place to grow up. As we say, we call it West Side, Best Side for a reason.
Wonderful. What a great experience to be able to grow up here and see the growth, the change. Are there any Pinellas County establishments or attractions that are now gone that you miss?
Well, when I was a kid, one of our favorite places to go, and it's condos now, if that tells you anything. It's condos out on St. Pete Beach. It was a true old-fashioned Florida marine roadside attraction called the Aquatarium. And if you grew up on West Side, you went to the Aquatarium, dolphin shows, and it was right on the beach. So you had this big dome for the dolphin shows and everything. It was right on the beach. One of those true old Florida attractions that we loved going to as a kid.
No kidding. And when did it go away? Do you remember what year that was?
Oh my gosh, it must have been I hate to say these decades to tell you how old I am, but that must have been the 70s when it finally went away. Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard of that.
Yeah.
So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Now I understand you mentioned that at the beginning of the broadcast. You said you attended the Boca Ciega High School.
The Bogasega High School, as Mayor Welch loves to call it, the Bogasega. It's located in Gulfport, but if you're on the west side of town, you went to either Bogasega, or we called it Bogey, or you went to Dixie Holland. So those were kind of the two main high schools on the west side. And I went to Bogasega High School, as all did my siblings. I'm the youngest of five. And so by the time I got through there, the teachers were tired of hearing about the justices, but a great place to go to school.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. And then where did you end up going to college?
I have degrees from St. Petersburg College, which, again, growing up on the west side, we have a campus right there I could walk to. Right. And then I got my other degrees at USF St. Petersburg. So what led you into politics? How did you transition to this wonderful thing that you do for our community right now? Well, I appreciate that. What was going on in the community, and my parents were political, but not super political. They weren't over activists or anything like that. But at the dinner table, what was going on in the community was the topic of our dinner table conversation. So I had an early interest in what was going on. I wanted to be aware. I wanted to know. So I was the crazy kid who would pull out the city-state section of the Times, and that's the first thing I read before I read the sports section. And then I was fortunate enough when I was in college, I took a class from a young speech teacher who was running for the state house, and he needed volunteer campaign workers. That was really how I cut my teeth, working on his state house campaigns. Went on to run his campaigns later, and then eventually, after I finished college, I came back and was able to be his legislative aide when he served in the Florida State House. And what year was that? I worked for him from like 95 through 2000 before I got elected to the State House in 2000. So that's when I moved here in 95, you got going. You served in the Florida House. You just mentioned the representatives for District 53.
What years was that? 4 years?
I served 6 years, from 2000 to 2006 in the Florida House, and then I went on to the Senate from 2006 to 2010.
And what kind of committees were you involved with, the committees?
I had a variety. In the House, I had a variety of committees. Some of the more, I forget what we called Child and Family Security, which dealt with all the health and human services issues, child abuse, DCF, those type of funding. And then I also was on some of the business regulation type committees. And this was after the smoking ban in restaurants passed, and we had to implement that. So those were some of the issues we worked on. But a lot of the trades and regulations. So I had my left brain and right brain working up there. So a lot of fun. And I was on the House Tourism Committee, which was my number one choice to be on because of how important tourism is to Pinellas County.
So that was your favorite?
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember that smoking ban when I first moved here because the restaurants down here, there was smoking everywhere.
Right.
Which, coming from New York, that was totally banned. So when I came down here, it was totally different. And then I remember some of the restaurants had half the place for smoking and then half you could smoke. It was not no smoking and half you could. It was really strange. And then
and there was no real partition between the two. So yeah, it never really made a lot of sense. So the voters just took it into their own hands.
Where any bills you supported that made it to the governor's desk to be signed?
I had one of my first things I worked on was medical privacy. We're talking 20 years ago, there was an actual gap. Most people are familiar with HIPAA, the medical privacy. There was a gap in that time period, and we actually had some companies that were using your medical information to sell to marketing companies. So you might go and get a prescription for a diabetes medicine, insulin, and the next day you're getting mailers from different pharmaceuticals. We thought that was wrong. We thought your medical information should be private. So I was able to pass legislation that forbid companies from using your medical information for marketing purposes. Now we have even less privacy than we did 20 years ago, but I always thought that medical privacy was something very important. That should be between you and your doctor, and that's really it. And so we were proud to get that law passed. Worked on a lot of other things, but that was my first bill that I passed in the Florida House.
Great story. I didn't know that. Thank you so much for sharing because that is important. Our privacy is important. And I noticed that did change moving here. It was like people would call me. I'm like, why? And then all of a sudden it ended.
Yep.
That was because of you.
That's right. Absolutely.
After serving in the Florida House, you were elected to the state Senate and served District 16 from 2006 to 2010. What was it like for you to transition from the House to the Senate?
Well, if you've ever been to Tallahassee during session, if you watch from the gallery and you watch the Florida House and then you go over and you watch the Florida Senate, the Florida House is watching like a hockey arena, and then you go over in the Florida Senate, it's more like a library. And going from 120 to 40 is a huge, huge deal. And so the Senate, it was more collegial, more collaborative, less partisan. That's changed a little bit now, but back then it was less partisan. You worked with all the senators, Republican, Democrat, all worked together on things, and you could get some stuff done. It was my first 2 years in the Senate. I had a great time and got a lot of good stuff done. Yeah,
I was just up there about 3 weeks ago, and I was in the House, and you're right, it was a madhouse. And then you go over to the Senate, it's very calm.
That's right.
All right, I got a couple more questions. What made you decide to run for Pinellas County Commissioner in 2012?
At that time, and it's not that long ago, but at that time, the commission and a few commissioners specifically were taking the commission in a very partisan, extreme path. The Pinellas County Commission has decades of history of being a very nonpartisan local government, get the stuff done that needs to be done. And we had a few commissioners at the time that were taking us in a very extreme partisan, the atmosphere that we don't want to see in Pinellas County, that we see in Washington or other places. And so I felt that I could be a calming voice, a reasonable voice. And so when I ran in 2012, the voters responded. They elected me there, been reelected in 16 and 20. And just a really proud, we have 2,000 some odd incredible employees that work for the county, that live here, that do the work here, that take a lot of pride in making sure the water flows, that the streets get done, the sidewalks get paved, all of those things. And it's been the best job I've ever had. I call it the best job I never knew I wanted, to be on the Pinellas County Commission.
Well, you deserve it, because I remember when I was first elected, you were the first county commissioner to reach out to me and invite me to some ribbon cutting, some events that were going on in Pinellas County, and I had no idea what was going on. But I remember that you invited me, and that really got me involved. So I really do appreciate you getting me involved just to understand what's going on in our county.
Well, we have nearly 1 million folks. We've got 24 cities. We've got a lot of stuff going on. We say it, and it's not just a mantra. We really believe it. We need all the partners to get the stuff done. We can't do it on our own.
And I remember you being chairman. Was it chairman you were last year? And I thought you did a wonderful job. I followed some on the videos, watching YouTube and watching some of the meetings at my desk at the office, and I thought you did a great job as chairman.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Serving as a county commissioner is more work than most people realize compared to serving as a state official as you meet year-round. That question.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're every week something going on. Every other week is a work session, or an actual meeting. So we're there all the time. Again, we're talking about a county of nearly 1 million people, $3+ billion budget. So it takes a hands-on approach to it, and we get what they don't tell you, and you've learned this being in city. They don't tell you is not the city council or county commission, but you get all these other committee assignments that where you represent the city or county in, and so that keeps you busy as well. And I've served almost my entire time on the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, and currently the chair of that program. That's a regional board: Tampa, St. Pete, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Clearwater, Pasco, and that talks about the environmental policy of keeping our estuary clean and keeping Tampa Bay clean, somewhere we want to be. I also serve on the Area Agency on Aging of Pasco, Pinellas, which again is a regional board that is kind of a clearinghouse of federal and state dollars that goes right into providing important services for our seniors.
I've been to a couple events for Keep Pinellas Beautiful, and you've been there. You've spoken to the crowds when we clean up the beaches.
Absolutely.
Down at is it Gandy?
Gandy Beach.
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah. You've been there a couple times.
Yes, sir.
I really do appreciate you. The environment is very important to all of us.
We all want to. We're here for a reason. It's you could do some of these same jobs anywhere in the world, but you do them here because of the natural beauty we have. Keeping that is not only just an environmental, feel good thing. It's really important to our economy. Having a clean bay, having a good environment, that drives the jobs. It drives the economy. It drives the 15 million tourists. I mean, it's an important thing.
And when you go to those events, the people that are there, the people that join in to volunteer their time to help, it's such a unique opportunity for all of us. And you get this sense of really warmth feeling that, hey, we are accomplishing something to keep our environment clean and safe for future generations. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And those of us who've lived here a long time and can remember the days where Tampa Bay wasn't as clean as it is now, and the seagrass was not as prevalent. I mean, there were some years where it was pretty bad, and all the county governments came together, the cities came together, and took some action to reduce the nitrogen, to clean up the environment, so that the load going out into the bay and the estuary doesn't damage the water, doesn't kill the seagrass, doesn't hurt the fish that you want to fish and eat, all those things. So it took, again, a joint effort of making that happen.
I have a couple of questions about our Pinellas County. Since being elected to the county commissioner, what initiatives have you generated for the communities you serve?
Well, there's an area that we care a lot about. There's if you know Pinellas, there's 5 or 6 areas of poverty in Pinellas that you know what they are, and really 4 out of those 5 areas are attached to a city, and so city folks, mayors, and city councilors are working hard at it. There was one area I discovered was on this chart. I knew about the area, but it was discovered on this chart called Lellman, which is in mid-Pinellas, right between Pinellas Park, Kansas City, and St. Petersburg. It is 100% unincorporated. And so I didn't think the county had been doing enough to focus the attention on the folks in Lellman. So that's one of the areas, and that's every subject area that you can think about bringing the forces to bear on one geographic area. So since I was on the commission, we bought a community center. We bought an abandoned charter school and turned it into a community center. They'd never had a community center in Lellman before. I live in West St. Pete. I pass 3 community centers on my way to work every day. Lellman hadn't had one. We in the process of redeveloping an old park. It was Joe's Creek Park. We've renamed it Raymond Neary Park. It's right attached to the community center. We've got millions of dollars of planned improvements in that park, improve the quality of life. We're investing with the first ever unincorporated community redevelopment area, CRA, in there. We're spending millions of dollars kind of like paying back, kind of taking it for granted for years. We're investing in the infrastructure, we're investing in the public services, and we're investing in the people there. And I think it's going to pay dividends for generations to come.
Wonderful story. Thank you, Charlie. That's great. Going back to when you were first elected, what are some of the major issues that have developed over the years that impact Pinellas County to this day?
I think the number one issue right now is affordability. Everyone's feeling that, whether it's on just prices of groceries with inflation, even though that's cooled off a little bit, though, we're seeing that impact on a day-to-day life. But really, it's, affording a place to live. We don't want Pinellas to become so popular, so great, that people who are born and raised here can't afford to stay here. Can't, when they move out of their parents' home, that they can't find a place with that first job to live here. And so that affordability factor is crucial. And we've seen that over the last couple of years really skyrocket as an impact. We have grown. We have gone from 900,000. We're going to be 1 million. We're going to be more than that. And how we handle that, how we provide the infrastructure, how we provide the services, how we make sure that we have clean water, how we make sure that we keep our beaches, how we keep our preserves. Those are the critical questions, not only for the folks that have lived here forever, our new folks, and the folks that we want to grow up and live and still move here in the future.
Absolutely. So last question, I guess, is I want to thank you very much for everything you do for the city of Oldsmar. That you've always been like a mentor for me, especially as a new elected official since 2015 and the new mayor of the city. I've followed you, and I do appreciate everything you do. Is there anything you'd like to talk about? Something that you mentioned, the one project you're working on. Anything else that you're working on that you want to bring up for us, the viewers?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. That's very kind words. I appreciate the service that you give to the folks in Oldsmar. And again, we believe in that partnership between the city and the county. There's an issue that's coming as everyone Oldsmar wants a baseball stadium, St. Pete wants a baseball stadium. So where we spend those monies, there's some commissioners that think we spend too much money on marketing our destination. I believe that that's a mistake to gamble with. I think we need to preserve a certain amount of money that we spend on marketing this destination. Some people think that we could turn off our advertising and folks will still come here. We have 100,000 families that rely on tourism as far as their economics. Puts a roof over their head, puts food on their table. We have to make sure that we keep that investment going. We have to market this destination. We have to keep those folks coming. I know it's frustrating sometimes when you're on Olmerton Road and it's busy, but know that the tourists pay a third of our penny for Pinellas taxes. They're paying for a third of our capital investment, our roads and parks and things like that. And again, 100,000 families rely on that. So we can never lose sight of how important tourism is and tourism industry and tourism employees are. So that's something that I didn't think I'd have to worry about, but we've got a couple of commissioners that are kind of waffling on where our commitment to that. And that's going to be an area that I draw a line and say, no, we're going to remain committed to our tourism industry. That's
interesting that you brought that up because it's so important for us, for our city with the BMX, the Gator Nationals. We had 46 states, 47 states show up in 22 countries around the world that came here because of that advertising that Pinellas County did for our city. The hotels were filled. It was a great economic growth for our city. Millions of dollars came into the city of Oldsmar for all the restaurants and everything that was going on. So it is important.
And when I was chairman the first time, I made sure that we had the proper representation on our Tourist Development Council that ensured that we had a North County representative. That's how one of your predecessors got on the TDC, was able to serve to make sure that Oldsmar's and North County's voice is heard countywide.
Yeah, and now we have the Tampa Bay Lightning hockey rink, the ball hockey rink for kids. The Lightning has been great in that too, and with the advertising that the Pinellas County's done for that too, is just everything here in our city is taking off with all our bike trails, our parks, and we're just very thankful for you for all you've done for us and the commissioners, everyone.
Absolutely, we appreciate it.
Okay, I think that's it. Anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
I've been a lifelong resident, and since I've been on the commission, had a lot more opportunity to spend time in Oldsmar, and love every minute of it, and appreciate everyone in Oldsmar. I'm just very thankful that you spent the time with me here today, because I feel that these types of podcasts are very important for the people of Oldsmar, that they show that we are committed to the citizens of our city, to make sure they know that we're here to help them. If there's a need, we're here to help, because we want to keep things and make things better. Do you agree? Absolutely, 100%.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Justice, for being my guest today. I'm very grateful and thankful. To find out a list of podcast segments, visit experienceoldsmar.com. I'm your host, Oldsmar Mayor Dan Saracki. Until next time, I invite you to check out all the great things you can do to truly experience the city of Oldsmar. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Woo!